We don't want useless men in this household. For some reason, her frontal lobe hasn't developed a bit. I should have let you know from the beginning this video was going to contain a lot of unpopular opinions. Hello everyone! Today I bring a video that I was so excited to make for the longest time because I've seen a lot of creators doing this and I said, why should I not? I find the idea so fun, and as you can already know, the topic of this video, I'm going to tier rank all the romances that I've read in a tier list that I've made myself. I don't know how this will come up, but I hope I have a lot of fun and I hope you do too. Without further ado, I think we shall start. First, I'm going to give some disclaimers. I don't know if all the books that I've read can count as romance, so I decided on a list of books that I know for sure the romance is very predominant in the story. Basically, the main plot or one of the main plots. I've read a lot of books that have romance as a subplot. However, today, since February is the month of love and also the Black History Month, let's not forget that. This is my content to celebrate that, since I'm full of love and also full of love for books. And I'm sure I have all the books that I've read documented on my Goodreads, so for this I went through my read books and caught all the books that I think could fit to this prompt. So let's see what happens. First, we have My Shayla, of course. Those books are the world to me, even though they may be romance or a genre that I don't tend to read them much. It doesn't matter, they are my Shayla and I will protect them with my life. On the second tier, we have Dark Smoking Gift. I don't know, maybe I've seen another tier list that put like images in some of the tiers, the description of the tier. I don't know how to do that. Maybe it is possible to do that. I'm not a tech savvy, so I just put the most accurate description to that GIF, if you know what GIF I'm referring to. This one, the classic. Therefore, for this tier, we will have books I loved or that I really enjoyed. However, they didn't become my favorite for some reason, some details. However, the enjoyment was thorough, so that's why it's the second tier. We have the What the Hell Sure tier. I don't remember the name of the actress. It was the headmistress, the principal in the third season, I believe, of Sex Education. There's like a meme going around of that actress replying to an answer on IG and saying, what the hell, sure. So basically those books are going to have that energy, that aura of maybe this is not too good, maybe I didn't enjoy this as much as the other books. However, there's still something that we can appreciate. But then we go with Where's the Flavor? With the famous TikTok audio that goes like, where's the flavor in this?
Where's the flavor? Where's the flavor in this? I don't taste anything.
Very self-explanatory for romances that weren't particularly my thing or that I found flavorless, not of my taste. Maybe the books that I'm going to put in this tier, you love them and that's okay. This is only my opinion. Then we have the bottom tier, which is for the books that even though I found them flavorless, they are also horrible. And I called it Must Be the Cooking, derogatory, for the comment by this famous cook, Gordon something, I believe, that he made on Selena Gomez's post when she announced her engagement to Benny Blanco. It must be the cooking because I don't get why these two love each other or why they should be together in a derogatory way. So, those are the tiers and I think we shall begin. I think I'm going to start with the YAs. Well, sometimes we have YAs that have romance as a plot and maybe they can be categorized as romances. However, some of the books that I read, I don't consider the romance to be the most important topic on said books, so that's what I didn't consider them on this. Here we have A Cuban Girl's Guide to Tea and Tomorrow. I was going to say Girl's Guide to Murder. Anyways, this book was so cute. Yeah, maybe the romance I was just talking about this. Maybe the romance isn't very predominant. I mean, it is, but the main character as well goes along a process of grief and of self-discovery and coming of age, growing up, you know. But the romance was romancing. I'm waiting for the adaptation. I think Kit Connor, you know who I'm talking about, is going to play Orion, the main character, and I really love that guy. Like, he does the bare minimum. I have to support him, and he's such a sweetheart. I really enjoyed all the romance between the two of them, especially in the end, and also because they were kind of slow burn, and that's my ish. Let's move along with A Study in Drowning. We have the first, my Shayla. How do I convey the power Preston Hillary has on me? Not even considering he's totally my type, like shy, wears glasses, and has dark hair with curls. He's also very intelligent and kind, and he adores the girl in this book that I don't remember the name. I really enjoyed my time with him, and to be honest, I think I fell in love with them when the main character began making some comments, phonetic comments, about his speech and his pronunciation of things. I must say, I'm a slut for phonetics and phonology. If you had asked me like a few years ago if I would be saying this at this point of my life, I wouldn't believe you. But now I know my priorities. Following with, I don't know if you can consider this a YA. I think it is. The book is so ridiculous and nonsensical and horrible. I mean, it doesn't surprise me if it's YA, because when this book came out, that was YA thing to release books with extremely toxic couple dynamics. Yeah, it must definitely be the cooking. Because what the hell? To say that maybe at some point when we were young, we could all fall for the bad guy or really like a toxic couple in a book or root for them. It doesn't matter. That's part of your past. And if you are recovered from that now, it's completely fine. However, I never liked this book. I read it when I was like 12, I believe. And throughout the whole process, I was hating it. I didn't see the appeal in Travis, I think love interest was called. I found them very annoying, very toxic to say the least, and stupid, and also very pathetic. I have the vivid image of reading a scene in the college's cafeteria, I believe, like they were broken up. He tried to demonstrate his love for the main character. I don't remember her name as well. It's such a pathetic way. Please go home. You're embarrassing yourself and you're not even that good. I think it isn't even the cooking. It must be something else. Moving along, we have Dasha Lily's Books of Theirs. I read this at the end of 2023 when it was Christmas time, and it was so short that when I finished it, I was like, what did even happen? It was a kind of fever dreamish experience. This was a very flavorless book. I didn't even root for the characters like on their own and not even together. The idea, I find it cute. Like, I read this book because I enjoyed the series that Netflix released about this book, and that's why I wanted to read it and know more about the story and the characters and how their relationship would develop. But it wasn't anything like that. It was one of those rare occasions where the book adaptation is better than the primary source, and I don't have any problem admitting that, because I know that adaptations are a totally different piece of art. They don't share the same mediums with books and everything, but yeah, they did it better. Then we have the favorites public, Heartstopper, and of course Dharma and Shayla, because they deserve the world, but they're soulmates, so they're meant for each other. I don't have else to say about them. It's like a fact how precious they are for me and for everyone that has read these books. We have Red, White, and Royal Blue by Casey Mackinstone. Yeah, goodish. Fucking good. I mean, I give this book 3 stars, I believe, because, like, overall, I found it a little bit convoluted. I wouldn't say the plot was the best, but the couple was very strong. I also really enjoyed the movie and the chemistry between both characters. They're both drama divas, and though I found their world very utopian, I mean, would I like to live in that world? Fuck yeah, maybe someday. I'll be waiting. And then we have another Bookstagram favorite that it wasn't precisely my favorite, and that that is better than the movies. My problem with this book was that it was a little bit hard for me to get into it. I couldn't connect with the writing and how things were happening. It was a bit nonsensical for me. Like, I knew I was reading a book. I didn't get immersed in the story per se. I found things a little bit forced. Maybe that was my problem. However, the main problem for me with this book is the main guy. Like, I liked him, but to a certain extent, because he was so down bad for her that it was a little bit annoying. I'm sorry, like, maybe that's the whole point in romance books, but it was crazy how he would have no personality whatsoever apart from liking Elizabeth. I think was the main character's name. I don't like my love interests to be like that. I want them to be something more than a pure sim, and I love sims. However, this wasn't for me. Now, I'm very confused with the following book because I believe the first book is, or maybe not, but the second book in the duology is definitely not a YA, if I'm allowed to say so myself. I left it for later. Following up, we have A Very Large Expanse of Sea by Tahiri Mafi. I think she's the author of the Break Me? No. Destroy Me? No. Something like that. Something with me. That whole series that I've never read. Oopsie. However, this book is totally not a fantasy. It's very much based on the author's own experiences, enduring and suffering from Islamophobia after the events of 9/11 in 2001. This book is very character-based, but the romance also plays an important role in the main character process of accepting herself and going through the motions. I really love the guy as well. He was very cute. He reminded me of people who don't revolve around conventions or don't care about what people would say about something. It was very sad to read at some points. I really recommend it, especially at this time. It was very touching to see the process of this main character in trying to find her place in the world. Goodish, goodish. Following we have another Shayla. I love my Shayla. What can I say about I Hope This Does Find You by Alia? Such banger! Like, I ate this. I like this book even more than the other romance she has. It's very good as well, but she outdone herself with this one. Maybe it's because they are academic rivals. That is also the reason for a study in drowning. Just to make things clear, academic rivals is my favorite trope. It's what I live for, if you know what I mean. Really dislike the guy at first when he's introduced, but then he won my heart. He went through everything and really proved himself to be a top tier, pun intended, love interest. And to be honest, I would just say that go to read this book. I really love Sadie, the main character. I remember her name because I cared for her. I really like her own process and how she dealt with things, her own epiphanies that every coming of age has. It's so good that I can't wait to reread it. That good. Let's go with The Summer of Broken Rules. When I read this book, I was totally into it. I had so much fun with them. The couple on this book is very like unproblematic. It was kind of an instant love, but not that much because they develop themselves very deeply throughout the course of a week. If we see it like that, it's a very short time. But the author did good, and it didn't feel like it was that short, you know? I wouldn't say they're one of my Shaylas. I don't have any need or desire to reread this book, but I love them nonetheless, so they deserve to be there. Maybe now we reach our first what the hell sure book of the video. Well, maybe this was a little bit of a letdown because this book also portrays an academic rivals to lovers trope, but there was something off between them. Like, in my mind, I couldn't picture them together. They were cute and I liked how things went on. Also because I really love the kind of books that only contains a span of 1 day or 2-3 days. I like that idea. I wouldn't read only books in that setting. However, I do enjoy it. Basically, they were cute, but not memorable. I believe they didn't make me to giggle, kick my feet in the air. And to be honest, I already sold my copy of this book. Sometimes some books aren't your thing, and that's okay. Another Shayla! This is going better than I thought. Oh my god. The Nature of Witches also holds a dear, dear, dear space in my heart. In this case, I don't remember the name of the girl. Again, I do remember the name of the guy. Maybe that speaks for itself. But how do I even start? Well, one thing you should know about me is that I'm deeply, irrevocably in love with John, you know. He's everything that I want, everything that I look in a guy. He's tall, he's handsome. I'm trying to remember the lyrics of that SZA song. I'm a whole different rants. That's me, for sure. And it's hard. It's hard to not be with him. Breaking my silence. The guy on this book has all the same qualities as him. The only difference is that Sang, the love interest in the nature of witches, is half Korean, half American. Yuno is just Korean. So if I told you I imagine Sang as Yuno throughout the whole book, would you blame me? Please don't. It's just like Sang. Now I'm talking about Sang. Is so supportive of the main character. No further comments or I will cry. Then we follow up with If You Could See the Sun, which is the other An Liang's book that I've read. And as I already told you, it was good, but not as memorable as Julian and Sadie. And I hope this doesn't find you. I don't know. Like, I remember the name of the guy, Henry, if that tells you something. And maybe it was because I literally binged this book. I read it on audiobook, I think. Maybe I couldn't like grasp very well the scope of the couple in this book. I know that I enjoy them. However, if you ask me now something about this book, I couldn't tell you what I liked about them. I'm so sorry, guy. You deserved better and you are still very good, but I still do prefer. I hope this doesn't find you. Now we have a series. The first series to be mentioned, the Summer I Turned Pretty series. Well, I think it's called Summer, just plainly Summer. These books on themselves are derogatory. However, this is another instance of book to TV adaptation that is much well done than the books. I read these books almost 10 years ago. That's wild, guys. What is going on? I don't get it. I was 15 years old. To sum it up, I started reading the first book on a Thursday night. I finished it on the following day, on Friday of that same week. On Saturday, since I didn't have any social life or whatsoever, I read the entirety of the second book, and then I spent that whole night reading the third book. I don't know why these books had me in such a chokehold, because they weren't good. I'm telling you, they were terrible. I'm sorry, Jenny Han. These are not your masterpieces. I mean, I didn't root for Belly, the main character herself. I didn't like Conrad. I thought he was the meanest love interest of all time, and I didn't understand how Belly was so in love with him. It was like at the same level of Travis from Beautiful Disaster. I still don't get it. Now with the series, I wouldn't say they change a lot of things, but at least they are more concerned with the evolution of the characters in the adaptation. So that's why maybe it's better. I didn't like Jeremiah as well. I found him like not only pathetic but very dull, to say the least. Like, what was he doing there? Maybe I read these books on a whim because they were so easy to read. Nevertheless, in my opinion, she shouldn't ended up with any of them. She shouldn't ended up with no one, not even herself. Well, with the last two YAs that we can consider, maybe we have bigger fish to fry. First, we have The Selection. In which category these ones should go. I also read them on a whim when I was also 15 years old. I kind of was rooting for the main couple in the first book, but then on the second book, the main character, America, oh god, well, but then she had like a very extremely weird arc on the second book. I never could understand any of her decisions. They were cute at the end, like the main couple. There's also like a love triangle thing going on, typical of dystopian YA 2012 books. That's a whole genre by itself. I did like the ending, but I don't know. I don't remember much of the books as well. These are, I think they suit well the what the hell sure category, because what the hell? Really? What the hell was that? The whole series? But sure, the literary embodiment of that phrase. The last two books in the YA, we have All the Bright Places, which I don't know if I could still consider it my favorite YA book, but it was my favorite YA book when I read it back in 2015. It left me crying for a week. I was sobbing on my bed all night every time I remember this book. It was wild, and I still appreciate this story and this character so much. Also, for due respect, I don't know if I could put this book in the dark smoking gift category, since this book also deals with a lot of heavy issues, mental health. And lastly, but not least, might be a controversial one. This is supposedly a YA paranormal romance series, but but for some reason, I read it when I was 8 years old. As I always say, maybe that's why I'm the way I am, you know, because it should have altered my brain chemistry. Let me be clear with something. I do not endorse or support the toxic relationship or whatsoever any aspect of the Twilight Saga. However, no one stopped me from reading this when I was a child, and that was a problem of it in itself. Maybe this made me romanticized many relationships in the past. That is no longer my reality. Yes, I evolve. Everyone has the ability to change. Yeah, I mean, it was a wild period in my life. I don't know if I would do it again. However, did I have fun while reading them? Did my life depend on reading them at that time? Well, yes, I'm not gonna lie. And I'm not proud of it. I'm not saying I'm proud of it. Yet, some things cannot be undone. Also, I need to point out that this is another case of books to movie adaptation that is better than the actual primary source. Not only because they removed a lot of controversial parts throughout the whole timeline of Bella and Edward's love story, if we can call it that, but also because the movies have Robert Pattinson, and we do have to be grateful for that. I mean, he's the OG love of my life. I've been in love with him since I was 8 years old, and I stand by my choice. And I believe that will be the case until the day I die. I rest my case, Your Honor. Well, to make a smoother transition, I'm going now to start with the romantasy. I think I've read a lot of romantasies throughout my life, but some of them aren't identified as romantasies. Basically, these are the ones that have come up recently and have been categorized as romantasy. I already kind of mentioned this duology before because I don't know why I have the sense the first book is a YA, but the whole series shouldn't be a YA. However, we have The Shepherd King. Yeah, what the hell? Sure. An unpopular opinion, the first book was more of my liking than the second one, and I don't know why everyone seems to love the second one more than the first one. It strikes me. Maybe I don't resonate that much with series that change the focus or the main love interest or main couple, since that's maybe the case for this duology. There are a lot of characters at the end of the day in these books, but what I'm trying to say is that I really enjoyed the first book, although the magic system was a little bit tricky for me. I couldn't deep dive full into it, to be honest. I liked the atmosphere and the ambience of the book, and maybe the fault resides in the fact that in front of moody and sullen and dark-headed men, I'm weak. I must confess that I'm weak. The second one did nothing for me. I felt more disorganized. It kinda lost the sparkle that the first book gave me the motivation to continue the series. Overall, I felt robbed. I'm not gonna lie. I felt there was so much potential, and then whoosh, it evaporated. If I'm completely honest, I couldn't care less for the main couple in the second book. I said what I said. Now we have Letters of Enchantment. I don't know. I feel it belongs between the Dark Smoking Gift tier and the What the Hell Sure tier. Like, this duology was better for me than the Shepherd King, and in contrast to that, I think I enjoyed more the second book rather than the first book. I don't know if that's enough to put it in the Dark Smoking Gift tier. For now, I'm going to leave it there. Maybe I do some changes, but definitely it's at the end of the tier. It was very heart-touching, enjoyable overall, and also I really liked the world building and how the couple finally develops. I think my main issue here is the beginning of the book, because he was really an asshole to her, to the main character, who I don't remember the name of again. I really couldn't see them being a couple, an item together. Maybe that's not the moment to say this, but I don't really resonate that much with enemies to lovers. I think it only applies to me when it is within a academic context, as is with academic rivals. And they're kind of academic rivals, but not really. I don't know. I felt it was a little bit forced, not very much well developed, which kind of changed in the second book. As I said, there are the covers. Well, that's another story. They're really gorgeous. I have these same editions. Well, not like they're not special editions, but I have the same cover, the UK cover, because I really did not like the US cover. So now we shall go with the Emily Wilde series. I just finished the third book, and definitely they're my Shayla. They are my everything, mostly because I love them together as a couple, as an item. To start with, Emily, she's one of the main characters I like the most. For example, the main character of The Nature of Witches. At some point, she strikes a nerve in me. You know, like that kind of main character that you don't vibe that much with. However, I'm in love with Emily, and of course, I'm in love with Wendell. Where do I even start with him? He's a golden boy. I think what I love the most about him is the fact that he's a little bit useless, you know, but in such a baby girl way, to the extent that he's not useless. We don't want useless men in this household. However, he's so funny and so witty, and he's so compatible with Emily. Like, they complement each other so well. She's kind of the logical one in the relationship, and I love how dumb bad he is for Emily. Not in the way that Wes is in Better Than the Movies. At least Wendell has a personality of his own, and I just have the greatest of times when I visit them. Maybe these books cannot be considered a romantic per se, but I just wanted to talk about them. You know, I'm sorry, like, they're one of my favorite fictional couples ever. Okay, so following up with some witchy, magical realism books, I'm going to follow up with The Ex-Hex. I really didn't like this book. I mean, when I was reading it, I was into it, and I usually don't DNF books, so it wasn't that bad. I love the vibes, the whimsy, witchy, small town vibes, but they didn't do it for me. I found them a little bit annoying and cringy as well. I think anyone who has read this book and shares their opinion about books online and didn't like this book have said this already, but the fact that they were together for like 2 months and then they broke up, and 9 years later they re-encounter and they still have feelings for each other. I mean, dude, you could have given them 5 years, 3 years, no more than that, but almost a decade? You must be freaking kidding me. Maybe it was also because I wasn't entirely attracted to the love interest. He was described as, here we in Latam would say chichon, like bulky and muscular, and I'm not into that. That was a letdown, but that's only my opinion. Maybe you love this book and you found it fascinating. Good for you. Oh, I forgot to... Okay, let's see. I forgot to include The Wedding Bitch, which I did not say that. Oh my god, I'm sorry. Okay, I didn't include this, but I read it in December of last year, and to be honest, I did enjoy it a little bit more than The Ex-Hex, and I'm going to include it in What the Hell, sure, because the love interest was the same kind of vibe than the first one, basically because they're brothers. I wasn't expecting anything else, but the plot itself got me more engaged with the story overall. It was like watching a badly good Christmas movie, if you know what I mean, because it's a universal accepted truth. Christmas movies are not very good, but this kind of had more potential than The Ex-Hex. I wouldn't reread this book, but surely I had a good time with them. Now, moving along with Ashley Puss. She usually writes these romance books, very whimsical and also very magical realism-ish. The first one that I read by her is A Dead Romantics. It was goodish. Yeah, I really enjoyed this book. I don't know if it was because of the grief of the main character, but the idea of the book in itself remains very compelling to me. Like, you did a good one with this, Ashley. And I did love the love interest, Benji Andor. I even remember his last name. This was very sweet. I love a lot of the monologues of the main character, her discussing about grief, as I said, and also about love and what it means to love. Sadly, that wasn't the case with The 7 Years Slave. I'm sorry. I'm still so mad at this because a lot of my bookish friends loved this book. They loved it even more than The Dead Romantics, and that's huge for me because that isn't my case. I think my main issue was the insta-love. How bad. I hate that trope. Like, I cannot stand it. Why would you write this? The idea is also very compelling. I have to give it that. Ashley Parson is very creative with the foundations of her stories. I'm not going to deny that, but I don't know. It was like they were in love after seeing each other twice. Maybe you had a connection and everything, but I think the only connection was between the eyes of the main character and the body of the love interest. She only knew about drooling over him. I need more than that. I need, I don't know, more personality, more stakes, and this book didn't give me that. This is not to say that I don't want to read any more books by Ashley Ashley Poston. I surely do, but I think from what I've read, the reviews about her other books, she has a problem with the insta love thing. And I don't know if I'll be able to persist. Maybe once, but I don't know if twice. I'll have to update you on that. Now, following with the last witchy book, fortunately, pun intended, because of the book that I'm going to talk about now, it is also a flavorless piece of literature. The Unfortunate Side Effects of Heartbreak and Magic. Very unfortunate indeed, I must say. I was in love with this cover, so that's mainly why I bought this book. And once again, that proves to be evil, to be not a good habit to have. This was so nonsensical and dull. Like, what was the point? What was the reason? Really? This kind of follows the same structure of the ex-hex. Two past lovers that they have their re-meet cute after several years. I don't know, why would you do that? She seemingly never got over this guy. He seemingly never got over her. I mean, I love delusions. I love living my delulu life. But we have to be freaking for real for once. Surprisingly, this also very much related to grief. But I don't know. I really couldn't care less about the characters and the back and forth between the couple. I also had a lot of beef with the main character because, hi, my god, she's like 30, but for some reason, her frontal lobe hasn't developed a bit. Like, I don't have good things to say about this book, and it was so unmemorable that I do remember the book, but not even a time that I had a good feeling reading this book. So let's go with another mixed genre thing and continue with literary fiction, the ones that highlight the romance. For starters, the Call Me By Your Name, Find Me series, derogatory. I mean, maybe if the first book was an individual item, the book would be higher. However, the second one should never have existed. I would burn my copy.
Burn it.
What?
Did I say stand there and look stupid? No, I said burn it.
And of course, I'm opposed to censoring books. I'm not saying I would burn every copy of it, but mine, yes, I want to get rid of it. Because what was that? Like, I just remembered my process of reading the second book. The first one is very emotional, I think, maybe because I watched the movie first and I really like the visuals more than the story. The character of Elliot, I'm not going to confirm it, but maybe that was hugely based on who played that role, namely Timothée Chalamet. Following up with The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, I mean, they are not essentially my Shayla, because I do have some criticism of the book itself, like how Evelyn is portrayed as a character with Latino heritage, but they were the moment. We cannot deny that. And what I love the most about this book and how the story accomplishes very well the contrast between both views of Evelyn and her romantic interest about life and how they should carry out their relationship. You just want to know the drama, you know, like you're there for it and you're eating up every single piece of information they gave us. The following one, maybe this one is more romance than literary fiction, but the way that it was written, for me, it falls more under the category of literary fiction, and that is 7 Days in June. Yeah, what the hell, sure. I wish this was higher because I really wanted to love this book. Fortunately, that wasn't the case. Maybe for the wrong reason, so let me explain. To start with, I really loved the writing. As I already mentioned, it was marvelous how the author described what the characters were feeling and the situation on itself, the hardships of the situation. Also, what icked me about this was the insta love. Again, why? No, I can't be friends with insta love. What icked me the most was the sometimes seemingly cringy millennial writing. I know I said that I loved the writing because at some parts it was amazing, like I wish I could write like that, but at other parts it took me completely out of the story and the relationship between them. The idea is also marvelous. True writers that inspired their main characters of their books in each other, amazing. But the fact that there were only 7 days in June, maybe if there were 8, things could be different. Also, the representation in this book about chronic pain, something that we should really appreciate, because in my opinion the author really portrays very well a part of what is to live with a chronic disability. Overall, for very little details, they couldn't win me over, and I'm still sad about that. But we we should move on. And the last literary fiction one we have here is Where the Crawdads Sing. Completely derogatory. Here we have the two most hated tropes by me: age gap romance and bully romance. And so much of this book doesn't make sense. If I start, I wouldn't stop. But there are a lot of well-written reviews on Goodreads that could explain the faults in this book better than me. Even as I was reading it, I was like, I'm kinda hating this. And I almost DNF'd it. And then I posted that I was reading this book, and a friend of mine, who is actually from the same state that the story is based on, told me that the dialect and how people expressed themselves were very derogatory to how people actually speak in that part of the United States. I almost forgot about that. This is how you lose the time warp. If I could understand more about this book, maybe they would be my Shayla. You know what? Fuck it. Maybe the point is that you don't need to understand everything that happens and process every word that is on this book. We can enter a very philosophical discussion about this and how it can be related to sci-fi. They're Shaylas for sure. How can I express the vast diversity of emotions they made me feel with their love letters? They portray so deeply the human condition and our capacity of loving, even in the worst times. I'm gonna cry. I know a lot of people didn't resonate with this book because of the writing. I know that myself. However, I think it's worth it to pass over that, to appreciate the beauty in this book. We have several books to go. I think all of these are straightforwardly romance, so I don't know where to start. But I know that Emily Henry should be a special part of this video. I don't know if I can speak about her just yet. Let's go along with the roughest draft. Yeah, I mean, they aren't the it couple for me. Not very memorable. I wouldn't reread this book, and I mean, I read it digitally, but I wouldn't buy the book anyways, even though I remember really liking this book because of how the characters spoke about each other, even without the knowledge of the other. The pining and anticipation. My hands are shaking from all this. They're literally dressed by Taylor Swift. I wouldn't have any proof to say that. Maybe I do. I want to read an interesting, endearing, related to the writing field book. This might be the one for you. Also, I do recommend reading it in summer. However, it could be a little bit despairing to read the conditions of the weather in this book. Following with one very opposed to that because it is set during winter, we have Love Life Farms. I totally would put it there. Also a very good time. It wasn't the best book I've read or any of that, but again, the pining, the friends to lovers thing going on here, I'm weak in front of that, and how much angst they feel because they cannot say their true feelings. I really like this romance, but I don't think I would read the other romances in the same series, if I'm being honest. I don't know why, like, they don't caught my attention as much as Love Life Farms. I'm all about reading Christmas romances, and from what I know, the other ones on this series are not set in Christmas. Maybe sometime, I don't think soon, I will give them a try, but today is not the day. Meet me in the margins. I get why it is more than the cooking. However, the cooking itself, it's so flavorless. My Goodreads review was basically, go on girl, give us nothing. The literary representation of that. At least it wasn't instant love, but that's like the bare minimum. I couldn't connect at all with this book and these characters. I don't even remember what happened. The only thing that I remember was it didn't fulfill the premise. Supposedly, they talked to each other in the margins of a manuscript, but how those conversations were presented was so messy, like the report of that, instead of showing us the real text, the real replies. Funny you should ask where this book should go, because I don't know. Probably it goes on What the Hell Sure. I remember like devouring this book. I really love these type of books that includes the lives of celebrities, which is also what happens with The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. Indeed, it was engaging, nonsensical a little bit, but in a good way. It also happens a lot of time between an event or relationship and the now, which I didn't mind that much here. I forgot about them like after 2 hours of finishing this book, but I did have a good time. Now let's go with Window Shopping by Tessa Bailey, which is the only book that I've read by her. I think it belongs there, not because it must be the cooking ending or the relationship, but because I don't have a theory for this, what really did happen in this book. Up until this day, I still can't figure it out. I mean, that's not concerning, and I couldn't grasp or understand the words that were on the book, but especially with the intimate parts. I don't know if it's the way she wrote those parts, but I couldn't imagine what was happening. I cannot even explain it because it's like tearing paper that is also like non-material, and every time that I try to comprehend what they were doing, I was utterly confused. I don't know if maybe they crossed a border that I haven't, and I'm not afraid to admit that. But really, this book was so bad. The idea was kind of fun. It was the first Christmas book that I read. I guess I can appreciate what Tessa Bailey tried to do here because the character kind of had a troubled past and she was trying to get over it. I thought it was a classy party.
Oh my god! I thought this was a classy party.
I'm sorry, I can't even organize my thoughts around this. It was so messy. Now, let's go with You with a View. Yeah, totally. This was a very good one. I don't know if I would reread it. However, I had the time of my life with them. They also kind of were academic rivals. They had a lot of banter surrounding that and their egos, which I really love and thrive with. I think at some part it dragged a little bit. However, it gave me everything that I needed at that time. And overall speaking, it's a very good romance book. Maybe not to the level of Emily Henry because, let's be honest, no one can be at her level. But surprisingly, this book might be just after her. So I do look forward to reading more works by Jessica Joyce. Goodish. How to End a Love Story. I mean, if we take aside everything that is problematic about this book, what the hell? Sure. But the foundations of their love story, I don't want to say much because I don't know if it's considered a spoiler. Basically, the love interest had something to do with one of her relatives. I think that's what the blurb says, but not how, so I'm going to leave it at that. Yeah, they had a lot of chemistry. Nonetheless, they weren't memorable in any way, and I really disliked the ending because it was so formulaic, and I get it. This is genre fiction. However, why can you not do something different? It doesn't hurt to try. Love and Other Words. For me, this is a very controversial book. It contains a lot of trauma dumping, consequently some issues regarding it that is not confronted or even criticized, which is very problematic for me. The drama, well, it delivered. I think that was the point. I haven't read any other books by these authors. I have the sense they tend to do that, to use this tragic factor kind of emotional impact for the story to, I don't know, have more magnitude maybe, but in that you end up ignoring a lot of issues and details that surely come up in such troublesome storylines. The romance, in a way, was romancing, so what the hell, sure, but we need to talk more about this book and how they need to give us an explanation. If you don't want to be triggered but want to read this book, I highly recommend checking them, not only for what I mentioned, but as a whole, this book is a lot. Then we have another Christmas romance, this novella. I mean, they didn't stay with me, but they're more than what the hell, sure. Also because I could relate a lot to the main character since she's autistic as I am, and I could resonate a lot with how she tries to navigate relationships, any kind of relationships, being a neurodivergent person. So I did appreciate that. The romance was also very cute. I did giggle and kicked my feet in the air, and I rooted for them. I think I basically left all my Emily Henry's book for the end. So the only one that is not an Emily Henry book is, I can't even say the title. I don't want to say, like, really, why? It didn't need the Spanish love to be a deception. This book fucking deceived me to read it. And far beyond all the discord around this book, I really despised reading this book. It was so slow and hard to get into for some reason. And apart from that, I wasn't a bit interested in the love interest. Another pun intended. Even if he was dark-haired, I swear to God. First, I hate this. Oh, she's so tiny and he's so big. I fucking hate that. Please, if I wanted to read about that, I would just pick a Nelly Hazelwood book. There are many wrong things with this book, but what annoyed me the most, apart from the height difference thing and also apart from being based heavily on Spaniard people, just like Carla Sofía Gascón, me voy a callar, me voy a callar.
Nos fuimos como si fuéramos. Me voy a callar. Me voy a callar.
Quiet, Sofía. The thing is, I don't like colonization. Okay, going back to this. I don't think it's the cooking. I think it's something else, but I don't want to be part of that. Please, no! Let's move on with my favorite realm of the romance genre, Emily Henry's books. I pride myself in being one of the first Emily Henry's fans. I came across that title in Twitter, I believe, when someone related this book to Folklore, the album by Taylor Swift, because of the lyrics and some phrasing in The Last American Dynasty, so I knew it would be my thing. What I didn't know, how much I'm still here until this day. I'm waiting for more. I'm waiting to be fed by this amazing woman that really changed my whole perspective about the romance genre. So that's why I think it's fitting she's at the end of this video. That's why we should start with Beach Read. What can I say? This book is a representation of Shayla. I adore them so much. That doesn't mean that I agree with some developments of their relationship. I know there are flaws in it and I accept it, but I love them for the potential and for everything they go through. Maybe it is because they're writers, but I don't know. There's something in this book. It's my own personal brand of heroine. I love them. No further comments. I have reread this book like twice and I hope to keep doing it in the future. Happy Place is definitely her most controversial book. I did enjoy it, but I don't know. It wasn't that of a happy place for me. I liked it because I like everything that Emily writes. However, it is true that something was off in this book. And I don't mean that in a bad way. It's just different. You know, it's just another type of Emily Henry book. And she's in a different kind of prime here, but maybe not the prime that I'm most comfortable with. So that's why, what the hell? Sure. I hope they're making okay. But I wasn't that attracted to the love interest. I did like the background of the main character, Harriet, but I don't know. Sometimes it was kind of redundant, a little bit boring, but I definitely could see myself in her. I think it was longer than it should have been. That's my overall conclusion. Now, with book lovers, The Fucking Duck Smoking Gift at its best. That is not to say that this is my favorite Emily Henry book apart from Beach Read. I was thoroughly frustrated with this book. And Charlie Lastra is one of my favorite love interests of all time. I keep still being in love with them. And I love Nora as a character. She's also a tall girly like me. However, the way that their relationship developed, it was like, stop and kiss. And I know that's the point of the pining, the back and forth, kind of hating each other, but then loving each other and being so attracted to each other. But I don't know, it was too much for me. At a moment, I was like, please give me a break and get a grip because we need to eat. I still adore this book. The ending was kind of disappointed a little bit, but for some personal preferences again, it's definitely not my favorite Emily Henry book, but it's still one of the best in the whole genre. I must say, I like People We Meet on Vacation even more. I'm sorry. I should have let you know from the beginning this video was going to contain a lot of unpopular opinions. My bad. A lot of people seem to hate People We Meet on Vacation, maybe a little bit less than Happy Place. However, I just adore the chemistry between the characters and their character study, their long-time relationship. A lot of people say that it is very slow, and for some reason, that wasn't a complaint from my part when I read this book. I really like taking my time with them, getting to deeply know Poppy and Alex. The only thing that really annoyed me was the main character's name during the beginning of this decade. Maybe it was because of the pandemic. Every main character seemed to be called Poppy. But anyways, I do respect her process, her epiphanies. And for some reason, I love the stories that happen over the span of 1-2 days. But also, I love the total opposite. Like, I deeply love the stories that happen over the course of 10 years or something like that. Like, they continuity, you know? If we go from point A to point B several years after without this bridge that actually happens in People We Meet on Vacation, without that bridge, there's no foundation. But here we have the whole journey together with them and how much they love each other and how they look out for each other, especially Alex. Baby boy! I'm really excited about the adaptation as well. And lastly, finally have the final book. Funny story, another Shayla. Maybe I do love Emily and Wendell a little bit more. When I finished this book, the feeling in myself was Emily was so bad. This is the most reminiscent to Betrayed that I've read from her. And I'm not saying that I want her books to be almost like a replica of Betrayed, which is the case of Ellie Hazelwood. I haven't read any of her books, so I don't have much right to say anything. I love how courageous Emily is to explore a lot of different relationship dynamics in her books. However, funny story is funny, lovely, amazing, show-stopping, brilliant. That Lady Gaga video, that was me when I finished this book. That good it is. Here, she again takes her time to develop each character, both the main character and the love interest, in a very deep manner, which I love in my romance books. Emily Henry doesn't know the words shallowness or futility because she goes deep. I love the friendship they build, and although the events of the third act were a little bit silly, I can admit that, but I don't mind. They deserve each other, and yeah, we finally have everything. This was intense, but I had a lot of fun doing it. It's amazing to see my first tier list in its final result. I'm going to make some arrangements. Yeah, totally. Well, you see it on my screen. So that was it for today. I hope you like this special video for Valentine's Day, as is it in my world, Valentine's Day. Girlies, rise up, loving my dear friends, and also loving you. Thank you so much for having this time. Thank you for spending it with me. You can find me on my other socials in the description down below. Please let me know if you liked this kind of video, so maybe I can plan more of it for the near future. Again, thank you so much for being here. Please, if you can engage with this video in any way, I would deeply, deeply appreciate it. And yeah, I hope you have a great day, evening, afternoon, whenever you are seeing this, and a great week. Also, we will see you again next week. So take care and see you soon. Bye!